Okay, before I even jump into anything, let me introduce you to a concept that you already have been using this whole time without knowing what it is. It is the concept of access specifiers. Access specifiers are basically tools at our disposal that allow us to show or hide methods, properties, constructors, classes, and fields. They're allowing us as programmers to specify access to the entire application. Now we have quite a few of them, but I will be going over the very main ones which are used the most to keep the course simple. But once you understand the concept behind access specifiers, which is not that complicated, then you will be able to understand any other ones that might not have been mentioned in this course. So in this video, we will be going over public access specifier. And you have guessed it right. Just like in our diagram that we saw in the previous video, the public access specifier says that if we make any method, field, property, etc. public, then it can be used from within the class and from the outside of the class. So in other words, any object has access to it. Before even going over the other access specifiers, I want to propose a hypothetical problem. So again, as we solve this hypothetical problem, we can understand the concepts and what the idea is behind these concepts even more thoroughly. So imagine this. Imagine if one of our clients who we're writing this application for says, "Hey man, we just got a new requirement. We want all of our salespeople to have 5 stages of selling," as you can see here, right? These stages are engage the customer, establish trust, address concerns, demonstrate value, and close the deal. Cool. These are some of the new ways in which they're trying to sell. Got it. Now the problem is that we want to only have the method sell to still be exposed to the world and not the 5 stages. And we want to be able to override these 5 stages specifically in each of salesman child classes or any other new salesman child class in the future that we might add. Please make it happen for us. Wow. So that's the problem. So let's take a look at the diagram that they sent us in order to better understand the requirements. As you can see, we have our abstract salesman class right here. We already have that. And we have the child classes. I only have 2 here, but we obviously have more than 2. And what the requirement is that we want to have only the sell method to be public. So this guy, so that other objects can call it from the outside. So they can call the sell method and it can show us how it sells. But we want to sell using 5 steps method. So these are other methods in which we are selling. And this is what we want to use in order to sell. But what they say is that these methods cannot be accessed from outside of the class. So they have to be only accessible from within the class. But then what they also say is that the 5 steps need to be overridable in the child classes. So they need to be overridable in the child classes, but, so, children have to have access to them, but the outside world cannot have access to them, right? The outside world can only call sell. And the reasoning behind it is that, the outside world, if they only call, let's say step 3, address concerns, that's really not going to show how the salesman sells because that's only one part of the selling process, right? If they call sell, however, sell within the class will know how to order the methods together. It'll say first I engage, then I establish trust, then I address concerns, then I demonstrate value, then I close. But anybody from the outside that does not know how to put these together and doesn't have that, business logic behind them, they might put them in the wrong order, or they might just call one method or 2 methods, and they will mess up the sell process, right? So if you can imagine, if this was actually a thing that was, let's say this is some type of class that is actually making a sale, then that sale would have been compromised if somebody else just called the 3rd method without knowing that they shouldn't just call the 3rd method. Now, what access specifiers give us, once again, it's just more stability and regulation. What we're doing is we're saying, listen, these methods we're going to hide from certain classes. We're going to only show it to other classes because we know that what can happen will happen, right? So if we leave these public, then we know that there's a chance somebody might call them. And if they call them, then that's not going to be the proper process. So why not mitigate that risk and hide them and only expose what we need to expose so that there is no risk of sabotaging a sale, right? So that's kind of like the idea behind the requirement. So let's start from the simplest part. We have our sell method. We already have that. Let's go ahead and make sure that the world can access it. Once we check and verify that that part works, We will then move on to making the 5 stages of selling and then making them overridable only in the child classes. So I'll go ahead and open this one up and go to the salesman abstract class, and here we see that our cell is public. See, these are the access specifiers. So public, so the property is also public, constructor is also public, but only this time we're talking about the method. So we have public, abstract. Abstract means that this can be overridable in its child classes. We already know that. This is the return type. Void just says that it's not returning anything because it's not. And public is the access specifier, so that it says that the world can access it. Now, once you inherit as a child from this abstract class, as we saw in the previous videos, for example, on the retail salesperson, then you can override this cell class, and that's fine. Let's actually make sure that this is, we can access it. And so I'm going to actually go clean all this stuff up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say retail salesperson, and that equals new retail salesperson. Okay. So here we go. And then I'm going to just say dot sell. All right. Here we go. So we just verified it. This is public. So another class, so a program, this is a class, was able to use cell. So it was able to access cell from its own method, which is main. And the main is just kind of like the entry point into the whole application, but it is a method nevertheless. So, it's able to access our cell method. So for now, we know that we're using public access specifier to expose cell method, and it is able to be accessed from within and from the outside classes. That part of our requirement has been satisfied, and the next couple of videos will be satisfying the rest of the business requirements.